We've been covering Disneyland's Haunted Mansion update for over a year now, and now that it's out, it's a little weird that Disney seems to be stumbling over what should be something they've done for decades. What's more, they're getting defensive about the AI art that was in the new Haunted Mansion Carriage house, otherwise known as a gift shop, that everybody seems to dislike. Let's talk about Disney going on the tepid defense here on That Park Place.
Culture, do you read the LA Times at all?
Hey, is this the article I was talking about? I don't know, maybe, but I've heard of them. They're supposed to be the newspaper of record in Southern California.
Yes. Well, the newspaper of record recorded some thoughts and some comments from legendary Imagineer Kim Irvine, who has led the recent effort to reimagine parts of the Haunted Mansion, especially that queue area out there. We talked about the bride before here on That Park Place, but apparently she was in charge of also the exit gift shop that they recently added, that being the Carriage House, or Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond, if I'm not mistaken, which had a collection of odd antiquities, including a piece of AI artwork in a by Redbubble, apparently. And, well, there was a lot to be said about that specific piece of art that was featured in that, yes, Ken Art, a prefab shed. But, you know, Kim was asked about this in the LA Times, and her thoughts on it are just very, very interesting and illuminating for all of us. So I figure, well, let's go ahead and go over this right now. This by Disneyland News Today. Update: Imagineer claims AI art was temporary. More human art is coming to the Haunted Mansion shop at Disneyland. This by Britt Tuttle right here. In a recent article with the LA Times, Walt Disney Imagineer Kim Irvine insists that the AI art of the ghostly bride seen in Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond gift shop at Disneyland was temporary, that the more human-made art is coming to the store. Kim Irvine claims AI art in Haunted Mansion gift shop temporary. So let's go ahead and see what her comments exactly were right here. It's kind of weird because, as I News Today, I don't think incorporated the fullest picture that they possibly could. So we'll go right here to the LA Times itself. Quote, they felt like it would be appropriate for a short time until they could do something else to put it in. What is she talking about? She's talking about the AI artwork itself, which is pretty insane. The LA Times gives a little description of what actually happened before. And Kim Irvine says this: the moment clearly weighed on Irvine. How they can find one thing out of all this cool stuff, Irvine says of the fan outcry, trailing off as he stood in the shop full of artfully created oddities and references to tarot and mysticism. She stresses that the AI art was a temporary placeholder, noting that there are many objects coming to the shop, more paintings and tapestries among them, and that they are in the process of being fireproofed before final install. They felt like it would be appropriate for a short time until they could put something else in. Talking about the ill-fated artwork, they never intended to do anything bad, and it's gone now. We're going to bring something back in that is hand-painted like all these other pieces are. So, couple things here. One, she was surprised that fans of the Haunted Mansion would notice the details. And apparently, AI artwork that you get off Redbubble, that's okay for a placeholder. Culture, please. I'm sure you have much to say about this.
I'm sorry. All this does is reveal to me that they lack creativity across the board. Not creating anything new, not being able to identify, the iconic elements of the attraction and just represent them well. All of these characters have over time developed these amazing backstories that are within the Haunted Mansion. There's no reason why you couldn't just feed into that, dive into that, do more representative things with that. I mean, to be fair, for as low effort as it possibly was to, build out some other gift shops of the past. At least they, stuck within the backstory or the story elements for any given attraction that it was supposed to be in support of. This by using AI artwork and other things like that, just kind of, and some very plain things as well. It just kind of exposes them for what they've been lacking for a long time, which is why you end up with Ramada in Poly Resort and, edition. And you end up with a lot of other mediocre, looks like any outdoor mall shop experience that you now have in Epcot. It's because they don't have the ability to do things creatively, because they don't hire creative people. They hire for not the reasons of talent and merit. They hire for other reasons entirely. They promote for those same reasons. And this is what you end up with. And I'm sorry. All these pastels and everything else that's there, it doesn't quite fit. There's a lot of things to it. And of course, the building being an off the shelf building to begin with is not very helpful, but I'm like, hey, look, it's a she shed. I can get from, one of these wonderful building catalogs. No, thank you.
I am so glad you brought that up, Culture, because we were going to go into the construction of this shed, because guess what? Kim Irvine has some revelatory things to say about that too. You can see right here, this is what the carriage shop actually looks like from a little bit of a distance right here. You can see that China's By Adventure and Haunted Mansion are adjacent to this shop. Haunted Mansion not in this photo, but you can see Tiana's By Adventure, and you can see the scale at which this is. This looks very, very bad, especially where it's placed. It's overscaled in comparison to everything around it. That is absolutely for sure. And as Culture mentioned, there is a strong suspicion, a very good possibility that this was, yes, off the shelf as a prefabricated house kit.
Strong suspicion. Strong. Like guaranteed.
Yes, indeed.
Look, the reason the buildings are designed, especially at Disneyland, the way they are, is because of how they scale the buildings.
Right.
They use this amazing technique that makes, because as you go taller, you get smaller. You have forced perspective. Forced perspective is utilized everywhere in Disneyland and in many places in Disney World, because it allows for things to be bigger and grandiose, and it also doesn't interrupt the sightlines of the other things. In fact, famously, there are multiple buildings in Disneyland that have one facade, one facing side, that is for one land, and another facing side for another. They did not even bother with this. They're like, well, this is close enough. Yes,
it is startling.
It's scummy enough. Yes, you're like, how can we scum this building design and this paint job and everything else so that it seems to fit in with both of these attractions, the historically amazing Haunted Mansion, and then the completely destroyed Splash Mountain with this new theming, the brown water of the bayou, or whatever this thing is called. I don't know. Regardless, this is incredibly disappointing. It is out of scale. It's overwhelming if you're sitting in one of those logs, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the Haunted Mansion is iconic in the most in the most possible ways that you can get in Disneyland. It is the originator and basically a testing ground for what would come later in the creativity areas for Imagineering, and it is a standard attraction. There's nobody, especially the locals, that don't go to the park that don't ride Haunted Mansion when they're there. This is almost a guaranteed ride for every visit, every time. And now you put this up next to it, and look, where's the brickwork? Where's all the other things that are iconic to the Haunted Mansion on that side? Again, this is the lowest possible effort, lowest possible budget. And, that lovely standardized building, that anybody can pick up. You now can have your own Haunted Mansion looking she shed in your backyard if you want it. Ladies, this is a great opportunity for your private art studio, your handicrafts, your quilting bees. I mean, you could do a lot of things in this building, and Disney is going to make it a gift shop.
Yes, going to make it a gift shop. One that's already open, one that has, I mean, if the exterior of the carriage house wasn't bad enough, the interior not much better with AI artwork, which thankfully is gone, but they put up some generic tarot cards, also filled with off-the-shelf pieces that you can buy, like, for example, from Amazon. So I guess it fits the off-the-shelf theme. Jim Scholl even came out, Legendary Imagineer came out and said, this is not necessarily up to Disney standard right here. But guess what, Culture? Kim Irvine had something to say about this as well.
All right.
Oh,
Kim,
yes.
What do you got to say, you talentless hack?
Here we go. The shop, Irvine says, has been in the works for about a decade. They worked 10 years on the shop, and this was the result.
I don't believe that. How long ago did we? Okay, so wait. There's some legends of Imagineering that were still in the employ going back 10 years. None of them would have allowed for this folly to occur. This incredible misstep. Tony Baxter was still in the employ of Disney 10 years ago.
Yes.
Crazy left earring guy was still there, and I think Marty Sklar might have still been alive. I don't know, but I'm just going to say
He might have been.
Yeah, I going back a decade, I think it's right in there or in the ballpark, but I'm just going, nobody in their right mind would have said, hey, let's wait 5 or 8 years and buy an off the shelf building for a gift house, a gift store next to, Splash Mountain, because it was still Splash Mountain at the time. During this, there are 2 iconic attractions next to each other. They destroyed one of those attractions fully. And Disneyland, they still have broken animatronics central.
Yes.
So thank you, Brer. Yeah, I thought he was still alive. He died in 17. Thank you. Yeah, I knew it was close, but it was in the ballpark. So, but nobody can convince me that that they thought this little of those 2 iconic attractions, Tony Baxter especially, would have like raised Cain to on this particular situation. Sorry, I'm going off today. Apparently I'm a little surly about what Disney's been doing to itself and everybody's childhood memories. I apologize. Yes. But look, if you want to go and enjoy this lovely she shed for what it is, with the lack of creativity, what do you call them? Decorations. I mean, just look, if you want to build that for yourself, you can go to pretty much any swap meet on the weekend, pick up the knickknacks that they have, put on the wall, some off the shelf, like wooden sculptures, like they did to, screw up Tiana's bologna sausage bayou. And, you can buy all this stuff online. I mean, you could have your own Disney. I mean, it won't be as nice as like Michael Jackson's Disney, but, at least that Michael Jackson's Disney was a little more authentic than what you're going to do at Disneyland now. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop talking.
You're fine. We'll go ahead then with this. It's designed as a carriage house, and the story is Madame Leota has taken it over a live-in space. Irvine says it's created to rhyme without mansion, particularly with its color scheme, utilizing the same tones of green and white, only with different places of emphasis. If the design is less ornate, Irvine notes that it's purposeful, pointing out into building carriage houses were, quote, a little bit knocked down. Maybe that's because they didn't hold carriages in something like this back in the day. Its size was a challenge, I'm sure it was. To shoehorn anything into tiny Disneyland is really hard, Irvine says, adding, quote, a lot of people in merchandising would have preferred it bigger. This is a travesty. This is a very bad execution by Walt Disney Imagineering from stem to stern. Doesn't matter if it's the exterior, doesn't matter if it's the construction, doesn't matter if it's the height or anything like that. Its placement, its scale, the interior, its props. This is demonstrably one of the worst projects that I have seen Imagineering do for some time. And here's the thing: I like Kim Irvine's, or at least some of her work, especially in The Mansion with the Bride. This was a complete miss. Culture. Final thoughts.
No. I'm going to say right now that she's kind of she's kind of screwed it up for a while. But this is actually just modern Disney now. I mean, if you look at how disappointing Tron is. I mean, you can build disappointing things in China. That's fine. But you bring that here and you take 7 years to build it, and it doesn't, and it starts having things that don't work. Not to mention just how disappointingly short the attraction is. I mean, this is modern Imagineering now. We have people who don't want to come into working at these companies. And
yes,
I mean, a lot of people's talents have fallen off because they don't have creative leadership. There is none.
Yep.
I mean, when Joe Rohde left, Mr. Earring Man, when he stepped out, they basically lost the last remnants of that kind of creativity. Because what was the last great thing that got built on Disney World property? Pandora, right?
Yes.
That was Rohde and Lightstorm Entertainment, which was both Cameron and what's his name? He just passed away.
Yes.
Landau.
Yes, the producer.
Landau? Yeah.
Yes, John
Yeah.
Landau. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Very much
sorry.
apologize.
There's too many Johns. But anyway, what were you about to say? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. But no, I mean,
No.
if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have what you have there. I'm sorry. It just, and then you compare Pandora, incredibly environmentally immersive, with maybe not the kind of things that they promised as far as the kinetics, like the mid-level and higher level, like things that we were supposed to see, like the flying Ecrons and stuff like that. They were supposed to be like drones, maybe without those things, but it just looks amazing, right? And they built an attraction that at least had a lot of kinetic motion to it, and then they built this silly boat ride that is not spectacular. But had they put the third attraction in, and had they allowed for a little more room to move things about there, I think they'd be in much better shape. I guess you could take out the Rainforest Cafe and fix some problems, but anyway, then you have, if across the way at another park down south, you have the Star Wars, I don't know, Black Spire bologna sausage. I don't know, just, Black Spire Outpost, Spire Rock of Doom, whatever it is. Millennium Falcon planter. Look at that. It has even less to immerse you in, a lovely shopping adventure in India, because that's basically what it turned out to be. You have a bazaar. Okay, well, is this Indiana Jones or is this Star Wars? So there's not a lot to that area. It was very poorly designed. The budget cut severely injured its opportunities, and now, when I walk back through there are not very many people in Galaxy.
No.
Edge. So yeah,
this
all comes back to Imagineering, folks. It's like, hey, we can design some really pretty rocks. Thanks. Those are supposed to be like additive, not the sole thing.
Terrible. But it's not terrible, Culture. Well, go Jogi.
Right.
Joining with the 499. Thank you so much for that. The horse shed is too well lit at night. Yes, it is. After coming out of the Haunted Mansion, it feels like walking into sunshine. Yes, it's way too bright, way too light. That's another problem with it too. And also too, modern Imagineering, that's another problem. Light pollution, so forth like that doesn't really not consistent with the old lighting. Go ahead.
Now remember why Imagineering was so great in the past is they understood those types of things, because they all came from film, cinema, and they understood lighting and things like that, and why it was important to light the scene properly. Even stage people understand these things. Disney doesn't know any of those things anymore. So lighting they don't even think about it. Like, oh, are we going to put this 1,000-watt halogen right here? Thanks. Okay. I don't need daylight bright, on this building at all. The ambiance is stripped away, to use a fancy French word. It's just, it's gone. And it's like, it's why they use a palette of lighting on Splash Mountain. Of course, when they first did that with those LEDs that weren't, filtered at all or anything, it looked harsh and ugly. I don't know that it looks better now, but it's at least more well lit. But none of these things should have this problem. You should have, first of all, this Carriage House, the Carriage House gift shop, whatever you want to call that thing. It should have had yellowing lights and things like that, tinted glass. There's a lot of effects that they could use, and instead of off the shelves Home Depot can lights, to even light the walkway right next to it. There's a real problem with how Disney does things now. It's because, again, they are incapable, and I had this conversation with Jonas yesterday. They are incapable creatively. Disney as a company is incapable creatively in seeing things spatially in 3 dimensions before they actually put it in place. They're supposed to do that as part of the creative process. In your mind, you should be able to walk around your attraction, your building, whatever it is you're doing, and spatially understand what everything that's going to have to entail: the lighting, the range of motion, all of these things. Now Imagineering does just the basics. Let's make sure when people hold their arms out, over their head, they don't break their arm on this roller coaster. Congratulations, that's the bare minimum, right? Every amusement company has to do that. You're supposed to be better,
a lot better.
Yeah,
and
so
they're not.
Yeah, and they don't have it. There is no creative leadership at Disney now. None. And
Yep.
Imagineering, cinema, doesn't matter. Anywhere that thinks in those terms. They do not see spatially. They are not creatively driven the way that they used to be, and they do not have any creative leadership. And
John Gibson III, with $5. Honestly, it's destruction of historical and artful landmarks.
100%.
I do agree. These were art pieces. They were art showcases. I remember Corey Burton, actually, famous voice actor for many things throughout Disney property, does actually the ghost host for Haunted Mansion Holiday, and he was tasked with, hey, maybe altering the ghost host voice. Specifically for the warnings, for every single attraction that you actually ride. Please keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times. Obviously, Paul Frees did not lend his voice to that, so they asked Corey Burton to do that. He's like, that'd be like painting on the Mona Lisa. Can't do it. So he didn't. So these, are viewed as art pieces, and it's a shame that they are ruining them.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.